Okay. So in this session, I'll give a basic introduction to object-oriented ABAP. Okay. So we'll try to understand some basics of object-oriented ABAP, and in the next session, I'll give in detailed explanation about each concept. Okay. Today we'll create some basic objects or basic classes in object-oriented ABAP. Right. Just we'll understand how to create the classes and how to call the methods in our program. So there are some basic concepts in object-oriented ABAP like inheritance, abstraction, encapsulation, and polymorphism, right? So we'll discuss these concepts in the next session, but today we'll see how to create a basic class and how to call the methods in our program. Okay. So first of all, what is object-oriented ABAP? So whatever the code we have written till now, so that is procedural programming. So using functions, right? And function modules. Functions in the sense function modules. We did not use object-oriented ABAP as of now, right? Except in the baddies. In the baddies, we have used interfaces, right? So interfaces comes under object-oriented ABAP. What is the interface? We have already used that. What is the interface in object-oriented ABAP?
Method without implementation.
Yeah, interface contains methods without any implementation. So those methods only contains only changing parameters,
And importing
attributes,
parameters.
importing parameters, changing parameters, and attributes. Okay. How can you implement the interface method?
With class.
With the help of class. First, we need to add that interface to the class. Then we can implement the method of that interface. Basically, interfaces are for reusability. It comes under polymorphism. Same method can be implemented for different functionalities. For example, there is a method called save. The name of the method is save. That method can be saved. That method can be implemented in different perspectives, in different scenarios. Okay. Same method acts as same method can deliver different functionalities in different scenarios. So we call that as polymorphism in object-oriented ABAP. What is a function group? I'll give you simple terms today. We'll create a basic class. In the next session, we'll discuss more technical details of object-oriented ABAP like inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, or all these things. Okay. So what is a function group?
Function group contains all the function modules, related function modules.
We group all the related function modules into one function group, right? So that those function modules can access all the global data, right? Now here in object-oriented ABAP, we use class. And in the class, we group all the methods, related methods. Here we use methods. Okay. Methods are very similar to function modules. Methods contains importing, exporting, changing, and returning parameters, where you can return the output, or just like how we use function modules, provide the importing parameter and return the output in the similar way. But the concept is different. It's object-oriented ABAP, where we have different instance, multiple instances for each method, and attributes. What is the attribute? Please remember, attribute is like a global object for the class. All the methods of the class can access data of the attributes. All the methods of the class can access data of the attributes. These are like global data, like attributes can be a variable like structure, work area like structure, or internal table like structure. It contains data. Okay, it contains data. Whatever the data we have in the attributes can be accessible to all the methods. Okay, let's create a simple class and we'll see how to call the class in our program. So here we have a global classes and local classes. First we'll see global classes. So the transaction code to create the global class is SC24. SC24 is the transaction code. Here you can create classes or interfaces. You can also create custom interfaces. You can find a lot of standard classes. So if you see, there are a lot of standard classes. Example for the standard class is CL demo output. We are already using this class. So this is the class, and we are using the method called display. This is the standard class, and this is the method of that standard class, right? So if you have any standard classes available, we can use it. We can call that method in our program, just like how we call the display method, right? If you want to check the parameters of this display method, place the cursor and go to parameters. So we have three importing parameters: data, name, exclude, and include. Okay, so that we can pass the data or inputs. Let's say we don't have any standard functionality available, right? Or class is for modularization also. There is another use of class. We can modularize the code using class methods. That is another advantage of using classes, right? We can modularize it. How we modularize the code using function modules, right? So similarly we can modularize the code using methods here in object oriented ABAP, right? So you can keep the business logic or business functionality in the methods. Okay, instead of writing everything in the program level, keep the functionality in the method and call the method in your program. Okay, let's go back to our report programs. We'll see one simple example using class methods today. Okay, and we'll display data in the ALV output. We'll create a simple program. The requirement is to display sales order data. The requirement is to display the sales order data by customer. Okay, sales orders of a customer. For that we need to take customer number as input, and we need to validate the customer number, and then in the business logic we need to select the sales order data using customer ID as input. Okay, at the end we need to display data in the ALV output, the final output data in the ALV output. Let's create this simple program and implement using class methods. Is everyone clear on the requirement what we are creating? Create the program. What is the data element of customer?
Kunnar.
Okay, KUNNR. What are the events in report program?
Selection screen.
Tell me the events, the
Initialization.
sequence.
Initialization,
Initialization.
Initialization,
initialization,
Initialization. This is to
selection,
get
populate
selection screen,
default values to the selection screen inputs. Initialization event is to populate the default values to the selection screen inputs. Get selection screen. This is to validate
validate
selection screen inputs,
selection
right?
screen inputs,
Yes.
Start of
start of
selection.
start of selection,
This is to write the
End
business logic.
of selection.
end of selection,
End of selection is to display the output.
output.
Now, so we have a parameter customer ID. I want to validate it. How we validate it and how we validate it? How can we validate the customer ID?
using the select statement
Select statement on which table?
on
Kenya.
the master table of K and Kunar.
Yeah, what is the master table of Kunar?
K and
So if you don't
MEN,
know, if you don't know that, so since we are selecting the sales data, go to VBAK table, find where is that, sorry,
Kunnar.
yeah, Kunar, where is it? Kunar, Kunar. This is Kunar,
and
right?
find the
And
just
go
a
to
foreign
the
key
foreign key.
Yes.
Here you can find the check table
KNA1.
of that table. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now we need to write select statement on Kunar. What kind of select statement we need to write?
Single.
Select single, sir, as we
Yes,
are having only single value.
single value. We'll write select single. Select single. Do we need to use star or individual field?
Individual field, sir.
Individual field. We are not selecting any data, right? We just need to validate whether this customer is available in the master data table or not. Select Kunar from
Kenya.
KNA1
Into
to,
at the rate data.
The red.
since we are selecting a single field, it can act as variable, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Data.
Data of, I'll take it as work area, ls KNA1, where Kunar equal to
At the rate
P underscore Kunar. If customer ID is available in
the
the
Kunar,
table, the select statement will be successful. Otherwise, select statement will fail. How do you know whether that select statement is successful or fail?
Sabarsi check.
That's
By
the check.
using subarc check. If
Sabarsi
sy hyphen subarc equal to 0,
equal to 0.
the select statement is successful. Otherwise, failed. Okay. Make use of message class. Make use of message class to display the messages, right? For now, I'll just write some generic message. But here, not if it is equal to, we don't have any issue. If it is not equal to, then we need to display the error message. Type E.
so in where statement the Kunar the p value is different.
Are we modularizing any code here? Are we
No, sir.
modularizing the code
No,
in the
sir, we are
program?
not.
We are not modularizing. We are just writing the code in the program itself. Let's modularize the code using, you know how to do it, using function modules and subroutines.
Yes, sir.
Let's modularize it using class methods, using object-oriented class methods. So what is the transaction code to create the class?
SC24.
SC24 is the transaction code. Let's create a class, custom class for this program. So in general in projects, right, we call that as helper class. Helper class. The class which contains the functionality of the program. Okay. Z. Again, you need to follow proper naming conventions here. For example, ZCL sales report. So this is the helper class for this program. So all the business functionality, whatever we are implementing, we'll keep this in the class. In general, how we do it in the project is, we create one common class. We create one common class and we create the methods, right? We create the methods with different functionalities related to one particular module, so that the developers can reuse the same class methods whenever they have similar requirement. We call them as utility classes in the projects. We call them as utility classes in the projects, right? Someone from the team, a senior level architect or a lead, will create these utility classes. The developer design these utility classes so that developers can just call the class methods to implement any complex functionalities. All the complex functionality will be provided or implemented in those class methods, utility class methods. Whenever we need to use a complex functionality, so that maybe when we need to use it multiple times in the multiple areas, that will be created in the like in the form of a utility class, so that the developers can just call that functionality instead of designing that, instead of writing from the beginning. Okay, so we call them as utility classes. And the other scenario, whenever you got assigned with some object, let's say someone asked you to prepare one report program to display the data in ALV output. So in the recent project, don't write all the code in the program itself, or don't create the function module to modularize the code. What you need to create? Class, one class, and inside the class keep your functionality in the methods. Okay, don't go for custom functionalities, go of custom function modules. Okay, because
Sorry, what is the T code for this class builder? I missed it.
SC24, SC24.
SC24. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
SC24 is the transaction code. So it is recommended to create class methods in any recent projects. Don't create custom function modules to modularize the code. But if you need RFC, if you need a BAPI, we have no other choice. We need to create function module, right? If you need to make a function module as remote function module, or if you need to create a custom BAPI function module, so we should use function modules only. But just to modularize the code, don't go for function modules. Okay, use class methods. Create the class ZCL sales data. So we'll keep all the sales order related functionalities in this class. Provide the description, click on create and provide the description. Here there is a significance of this final checkbox. When we are discussing on about inheritance, I'll explain about what is this final checkbox. Okay, for now ignore it. Click on save, provide the description and click on save. Select proper package, right? To save the class. For now I am using local object. Now this is the initial display of class builder. Here we can create global classes. These class methods can be called in any program or within the function module or within the subroutine. You can call anywhere. Okay. Here first go to properties tab. Here you can see description of the class and who created it and when it is created, right? And we have the superclass concept. Again, it is related to inheritance concept. I'll explain when we are working on inheritance. Interfaces. I've already told you, right? We can implement an interface with the help of a class. You need to add your interface here. You need to add your interface here to implement the methods. Okay. First, you need to add that interface here and implement the interfaces in methods. Okay. To implement the interface methods. We'll ignore friends for now. Attributes. What are the attributes? Attributes are the global objects of the class where different methods of the class can access the data. If there is any common data, required for all the methods, we'll keep that common data in the form of attribute. Attribute is nothing but just like variable, work area or internal table. Okay, we define attribute that in the form of a variable, work area or internal table. If you use data element as associated type, that acts as a variable. If you use structure name, that acts as a work area. If you use table type, that acts as internal table data. Okay, clear? So attribute data can be accessible in all the methods of the class. Okay. There is one interview question on this. How can you exchange data between different methods of the class? What is your answer? We can keep that common data in the form of attribute, and that attribute can be accessible in all the methods of the class. Okay. In methods, so in methods we define the methods and implement the methods. Okay, so we'll see events, types and other things later. Now, so we need one method for this, right? For validation of the customer. How can you create the method? So in the class, go to methods and validate. So this is the method name. So here we have two types of methods: instance method and static method. Instance method and static method. For instance method, we need to create the object. So each object will have its own memory. So different developers can create different instances of the method, right? So we call instance methods with the help of object, right? And there is another method, static method. The memory of the static method is global. You don't need to create any object for static methods. You call the static method using class reference, class name and the method name. So the you are already familiar with CL demo output display method, right?
Yes, sir.
Is it a
Yes, sir.
static method or instance method?
Static method.
Static method, sir.
So CL demo output is a class and display is a static method. How can you say that? Go to SC24, open the class CL demo output, go to display. This is the method we are calling, right? So defined as a static. And how we are calling that in the program? Using class name, some arrow mark, and display, right? That method name. So we call that method with the reference using class name as a reference, right? Since it is a static method. But if it is an instance method, we need to create the object. We'll see how to create the object. First implement the method. I'll select is an instance method. Visibility. In object-oriented ABAP, we can set the visibility of the method so that other classes are can be accessed, or we can restrict the access to other classes. Public, protected, and private. If you select it as public, so this method is accessible to other subclasses. When we are discussing about inheritance, again we'll discuss about more details. So if you defined this method as public, so this can be accessible to other classes and the subclasses of this class. If you select it as protected, this functionality is accessible only within this class and its subclasses. Private means this functionality is specific to this class only. Other classes are so that outside classes cannot access this data. So we are providing some data security here. We are restricting the access of this functionality to the external classes by using these access specifiers. We call them as access specifiers: public, protected, and private. If you select public, these are accessible for any other class. If you select private, these are local to the same class and its subclasses, child classes. Private means this functionality can be accessible only within this class. Okay. For now, select public. These are called access specifiers: public, protected, and private. Provide the description of the method. Validate customer. Now we just define the method name. We need importing and exporting parameters, right? To pass the data and return the output. For that, place the cursor here, go to parameters. Now, what is the input for this method? Customer ID is the input.
Customer ID.
I'll follow some naming convention to define the importing parameters. So is it a single value or a record? Single value. I'll take like this: IV Kunar. Type. What type of parameter it is? Importing, exporting, changing, or returning?
Importing.
Importing parameter. You are already aware of this parameter, right? Importing, exporting, changing, and returning.
Yes, sir.
Associated type.
Kunar.
Provide the data element name. Provide the data element name. And what is the output?
We need to display various sales orders, sales order data.
No.
Field.
What is the purpose of this method?
Used to validate.
Just to validate the customer, right? Whether it is a valid customer or not. We are not selecting any data from sales order tables. So I'll select one status field as exporting parameter so that it will return the output. I'll take this type as
Boolean. Operation.
So what is Boolean type? True or false. ABAP true or ABAP false, it will return. Okay. Or you can return customer ID also as the output. That's up to your requirement. Now I've defined the parameters. Now double click on the method to implement it. Double click on the method to create the implementation for this method. Here you can write your code in between method and end method, and you can make use of these parameters. This is importing parameter and this is exporting parameter. Sometimes you can hide these parameters. Click on signature. If you want to show, click on signature to show the importing and exporting parameters. Okay. Now write the code. Select single from KNA1 where sorry, where Kunar equal to what we need to pass here.
E underscore stressed. E underscore color.
EV status. What is this EV status? It's a exporting parameter, right? We need to return the output. We need to pass importing parameter. IV
IV Kunar.
that will contain the input value. If sy hyphen sub rc equal to 0, then pass status as
E underscore status.
ABAP underscore true.
True.
Else pass status as ABAP underscore false. Okay, or you can simply pass X value or make it blank for this. Okay, by default it is blank, right? Even you don't need to pass ABAP false. Okay, by default it will be blank. Activate the method, and you need to activate all the relevant objects of the class. You need to activate all relevant classes objects of the class. Select all of them and click on continue to activate. So your method is active. Now test this method. How to test this method? Click on this execute. It will display this. Select your method and execute. Provide the customer ID, any customer ID. It is X, right? X means ABAP true.
ABAP true.
Let me find some other value. TR1000, it is blank. That means ABAP false. This is not a valid customer, right?
Yes,
You can test the method here. Now call the method in your program. Call the method in your program to validate the customer ID instead of this code. So what type of method we created? Instance method or static method?
Instance methods.
For instance method, what is required?
Object
Object.
of base.
We need to create the object. Okay. So how to create the object? We need to first define the object first. Data. Some name, provide some object name, LO underscore OBJ. Type. Ref. Type ref2, reference to the class name. Provide the class name. Okay. Data. LO object, type reference to the class name. Where we need to call the method?
At selection
At selection
screen.
screen, right? First, we need to create the object before going to call the method. Before going to call the method, we need to create the object. That means instance. We need to create the instance or object. How to create the instance? Using create object and whatever the object we defined here, provide it. Now, the object is created. The object is created. With the help of the object, we need to call the method. How to call the method? Go to pattern,
Choose classes.
use ABAP object patterns. Use ABAP object pattern. Select this option. Here, call method option we need to select. You can also create the object by using this pattern option. Here you need to select create object, provide the object name and class name so that it will automatically create a class. Let's try this also. Provide the class name here. Click on continue. So it will create the object. Or you can also manually create the object using create object statement. Go to pattern, select ABAP object patterns. Now we need to call the method, right? Provide the instance. What is the instance we have already created? LO obj, that is the object name. Provide the class name. You can select the methods of the class here. Validate customer, continue. Now, for this, what is the input? For this method, we need to pass the customer ID, right? To check whether it is valid or not. Provide the parameter. Make sure, please make sure the importing parameter of the method and the parameter what we are using here, whatever the value we are passing here, should be of same type, referring to the same type. In function modules, it is necessary to define variables to return the output. But here, you don't need to specifically define any output. You can just use inline declaration at the rate of data of LV underscore status. You can use like this. That might be a variable like structure, work area like structure, or internal table like structure. You don't need to define. When we are working on function modules, what we did to return the output structure, we created one type structure, right? And we defined
Yes, sir.
internal table with reference to the type structure, and we use the type structure in the function module output in the calling program, right? Here you don't need to do all those things. You can simply use inline declarations. It will automatically generate that internal table with reference to this exporting parameter. If LV underscore status equal to ABAP false. If it is true, if it is ABAP true, we have no issues. If it is ABAP false, display error message. Okay. Now test this functionality. Some 1000. This customer is already available. Create object F6. Yep. Press F5 to go inside the method. If you press F6, it will complete the execution in single step. F5. Subarc is 0. Then we are populating ABAP true to the exporting parameter. And it returned the value to the calling program. LV status is the variable what we are using. It is populated that value. So no error message displayed. I've entered some invalid customer ID. Let's see. Select statement failed. So it will populate with the false. So it will return the value to LV status. It is blank. It will raise the error message. Okay. This is how we call the method. And let me quickly create other method to display the, to select the data. What is the input for us? Here, customer ID is the input, right? To select the sales order data. Read orders. Select the type as instance method. I'm creating another method. Public. Read sales orders data. Define the parameters. What are the parameters required?
Kunar.
Yeah, in this example, we are taking only customer ID as input. Make it as exporting. What is the export? What is the output? What is the output we
Here
need?
we need to
We need to return one
fields, various
final
fields.
sales order data, right? So we have different alternatives here. You can create a structure with final output data, or you can also use types. Okay, you can also use types. For now, I'll just keep it very simple. Let's take one EKKO example. Or EKPO example. Exporting parameter, right? I'll take like this ET. Since we are going to return internal table like structure with multiple sales orders for this customer, we'll take ET orders. Type is exporting parameter, and here what we need to use? Table type. Since we are expecting multiple records, quickly create one table type. I'll take EKPO table example. Create this. Create table type. I'll take standard table. Sorry, not EKPO. VBAP, right? For sales order items.
Yes, sir.
VBAP. Activate. I'm just taking standard table as example. Now define exporting parameter using this table type and go to methods. Implement the method. Select star from VBAP into we can directly take this exporting parameter because we are using select star, right? Here in table type also we have used a complete table reference. So both structures are same. Into table, you can define a separate internal table and pass it later, or you can directly use exporting parameter. For now, I'll use different internal table. At the rate data lt underscore vbap, where kunar equal to at the rate of id kunar. If sy hyphen sub rc equal to 0, and if et orders equal to lt vbap. Make sure both structures are same.
ET
Oh,
odd.
sorry. We don't have kunar in VBAP, right? We need to take VBAK. We cannot take VBAP, or we need to join. Let me change the table to VBAK for this example. I'll keep it as it is.
ET orders. That's me.
ET orders. Okay. Let's select a header data only, not VBAP, and activate the method. Make sure all the dependent objects are also active for this class. So your method is active. Now try to select the, now try to test it. You can see two methods here. Click on read orders method and test it. Before that, let's find some sample data with some where is Kunar field, or if you want to see the technical field names here instead of field labels, you can change it. Go to layouts, user parameters, instead of field labels, select field name.
It went sir Kunar.
Kunar went sir left side.
Okay. Sorry. So this one. So we'll take this customer ID. Looks like we have more records for this. Enter the customer ID. So it will display the records here in the form of internal table. Okay. So let's call this method in our program. Read orders method. Now what is required to call the method? What type of method is it? Instance or static?
Instance.
Now in which event we need to call this method?
Startup selection.
Start of selection. Do we need to create object again?
No sir, we can take.
We have created in a different event. Please remember, we created object in a different event at selection screen event. So that object is not going to be accessible in different event. Okay. So we need to create the object again. Now we'll see how to create the object using new ABAP syntax. This is old ABAP syntax, defining object and using create object statement. But we have new ABAP syntax where we can do in a single statement. For that, what we need to use? At the rate of LO obj1, because we cannot use same object name again since I have already used here, equal to new class name and that's it. So this is how you can create the object. You don't need to use two statements. One is to define it and one is to create the object, right? By using new ABAP syntax, you can create the object like this. Now call the method using this object reference. Go to pattern, keep the cursor here, go to pattern, ABAP object patterns, LO obj1, class name is same, select the method, read orders,
Read orders.
continue, provide the input, customer ID is the input, and return the output. Here, since we have created the table type, you can define one internal table with reference to the table type. The CT orders table type, right? You can define one internal table, or you can simply use a inline declaration, LT orders. You don't need to define it separately. Then just display the output. If LT orders is not initial, and if what type of method it is? Display. It's a static method.
Static method, sir.
That's why we are using class reference like this to call the method. We don't need to create the object. Okay. Activate the program. So now our functionality is completed, right? So we kept all the business logic and validations in the class. Okay. We modularize the program using class methods. So you can call these methods in any program whenever required. Test it. What is the customer ID we have? Execute. So this is the output, right? So try to debug how each class method is working. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
so can we in the exporting, can we give in place of a parameter, can we give in inline declaration, sir?
We're here.
No, sir, the above one.
Here.
No, sir,
Oh,
I'm saying in exporting. Yes,
So
sir.
first we define parameters.
No. See, what we are doing here, we are passing some input, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you use inline declaration, how can we pass the input to the other variable? You can use inline declaration like this. At the rate of LV value equal to some 10. You can use the inline declaration like this. But how can you use inline declarations in this parameter? Do you mean like this?
Yes, sir. Data of
Rate of Kunar equal to, you mean like this?
no, sir, no equal to, only like only data.
Then it will be an empty variable, right? If you just use like this, even if it is work, if it is a valid syntax, it's an empty value, right? Where is the value? We are just defining it, but where are we passing the value? It will define
Yes, sir.
one empty
Yes, sir.
parameter,
Yes, sir.
one empty variable, right?
Yes, sir.
But we need to pass the data, right? Some
Data.
value, right?
Yes, sir.
As input.
Yes, sir.
So going forward, please try to use class methods. Whatever the program you create, keep the functionality inside a class method. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Create separate helper class for each program and keep all your functionality in that class and call the methods in your program. Okay?
Sir, one more thing, sir.